Alright, I think it's already clear at this point that Honkai Star Rail's story has a problem. From bloated dialogue scenes that drag on to moments that sound epic in theory but completely fall flat in execution. And that's what frustrates me the most, because I can see it. I see the potential, Hoyoverse. You've got something strong at the core, but you keep letting hollow metaphors and overblown monologues drown out what actually makes your writing work. Emotional weight and character-driven moments. Hi, I'm Vincent, and today I'm probably going to make some lore enjoyers very, very mad. So the story of 3.2 focuses on some very interesting plot points. The characters taking the majority of the spotlight this time around are Anaxa and Castorice. Other characters will make an appearance as is expected, except Dan Heng. At this point you can write him off as not even being on Amphorius to begin with. Though I will say that there is one piece of very important information that he shares with us, but more on that later. Picking up where we left off in 3.1, we were chosen to become the new candidate of the Flame Chase journey to become the Titan of Time. We surrendered the core flame, go through the portal, only to end up talking with Orynyx for a short while. He kindly informs us that we have no future, meaning we've already been dead and should have dissipated a long time ago, but Fuely's gaze might have just stabilized our form enough to delay the inevitable. Now that's all well and good, but next comes the actual trial, where actually there is no trial. Something bad is happening to the space, forcing Orynyx to relinquish their Titan powers to the Trailblazer just like that, which honestly is a disappointment. It feels cheap, we don't even see or know exactly what this looming threat even is, and it just feels like an excuse on the dev's part to not have the trial be part of the main story. Coming out of the supposed trial, we're met with Dan Heng, who confirms the fact that we're already dead. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, our Trailblazer was dead the moment the Astral Express car was hit. Before passing out, Dan Heng dragged our body to safety, and when we woke up, he saw we were right as rain. For how smart the story is trying to make us think that Danny Boy is, for some reason he didn't think it would be a good idea to check on our well-being, or at the very least inform us of the fact that we were bleeding pretty badly. Not the type of mistake that a very thorough and intelligent character like Dan Heng should be making. Putting that to the side, however, we go meet up with Castorice. Thanks to Mem telling everyone about our situation, Castorice feels conflicted about finally being able to physically touch someone at the cost of that someone having to be already dead. However, she is adamant to try to restore your soul to your body and make sure you're anchored to the land of the living again. Meanwhile, Anaxa finds himself in the River of Souls. Due to the fact that his body is only being held together thanks to the efforts of the Titan of Reason Circes that's currently living rent-free in his head, his consciousness randomly slips in and out of the spirit realm. His body is deteriorating, however, and even the Titan's power can't stop it. As interesting as Anaxa's concept is, the story following his introduction is anything but. This is where you'll start having trouble paying attention to the story, because in an attempt to make Anaxa and Circe sound smart, the writers have decided to make all of the dialogue bloated, which is unfortunate because there are some interesting things happening here, like how Anaxa is supposed to meet up with the Council of Elders in an attempt to conspire against the Chrysos heirs to prematurely end the Flame Chase journey. This introduces some great political stakes: betrayal, a shift of power, the potential that the Chrysos heirs will be ostracized by the very same people they swore to protect. It's such a shame that all of this is buried under too much flowery dialogue that stretches on for too long. On the surface, it looks okay, but once you try to get at the core of the message that's being conveyed, you're pretty much left without any substance. Anaxa's and Circe's dialogues mostly focus on sounding philosophical rather than saying anything of great importance. Regardless, through his dialogue with Circe, we learn that Anaxa has great plans in store for Amphorius, where, in his words, he will turn this farcical world upside down. An objective that by the end of the 3.2 story, he fulfills, but its effects are a far cry from the ones that he boasted about. Moving on, the Council of Elders, represented by Canis, are far more simple. They are the corrupt politicians that are not in favor of handing over power to humans that seek to become gods through the Flame Chase journey. While initially Canis comes off as a shrewd, well-prepared woman, she quickly subverts your expectation by showing how utterly incompetent she actually is by trying to negotiate with Anaxa and accepting every single demand that he makes. I guess this was supposed to show how clever Anaxa was to trick Canis into accepting his proposal with mere words, but when you're dealing with someone whose reputation is besmirched for being a blasphemer and has the insulting moniker of the great performer, believing every single word this man says and accepting them at face value without any sort of proof or guarantee, yeah, that just screams stupidity to me. But that's exactly what Canis did, and allowed Anaxa to further continue his journey towards Kephale, the world-bearing titan. On this journey, Anaxa's condition causes him to slip into the spirit world again, where he was able to see the spirits of Calypso and Neus, Calypso having the exact same appearance as Circes, the Titan of Reason. It doesn't take Anaxa long to come to the conclusion that these are the souls of the dead, and the reason why Calypso and Circes have such a striking similarity is due to the fact that Calypso was the mortal form of Circes before ascending to godhood. An interesting revelation, as this shows that the Flame Chase journey is a cycle in which heroes ascend to godhood whenever titans show signs of corruption or losing their humanity, something that Aglaia seems to be currently suffering from. However, this doesn't answer Anaxa's other question, which is, where do souls originate from? Anaxa is somehow able to show these spirits to Castorice and Circes via alchemy. This process is conveniently not explained. I'm not asking for an in-depth explanation, but just saying I did it through alchemy is not that much different from saying it's magic. Regardless, through these visions, we find out that Castorice has a sister called Policia, and that in their own time as Chrysos heirs, one of the sisters had to sacrifice themselves for the other to become the Titan of Death. Policia, as one of the chosen of death, was afraid of sacrificing herself, while Castorice seemed to be more than willing to die for her sister. There's a poetic irony in the fact that Death's chosen is afraid to die. And so, Castorice forfeited her life so that her sister Policia could become the Titan of Death. From the vision, Castorice and Anaxa figure out that the current location of the god of death is highly likely to be Stixia, a place that has been long unreachable due to it being flooded by the ocean titan. Anaxa then casually produces the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary alchemical artifact created in his own words by transmuting all of the sage's wisdom into a single entity using their flesh and blood as its foundation. That should be a moment of awe, horror, or at least emotional tension, but it's treated like a simple key item. There's no reverence, no pushback, no weight. The story introduces a powerful mythic object and tosses it into the scene like it's just another checkpoint marker. It's a baffling misuse of something that should have carried immense narrative and symbolic importance. From here, we fast forward a bit to the debate between the Chrysos heirs and the Council of Elders, where we find out that the Council isn't striving to reach the new era promised by the successful completion of the Flame Chase journey, but instead they are attempting to return to Era Chrysia, a golden age where the three titans of calamity do not exist. These titans are Zagreus, Nicodor, and Thanatos, each representing trickery, strife, and death, respectively. With both Castorice and Anaxa on the side of the Council, they convince the participants to hold a vote for the immediate suspension of the Flame Chase journey. This vote will take place later on in the story. In the meantime, we learn more about Castorice's backstory and how she was raised to be the executioner everyone knows today. We see her being feared, hated, but also revered by her victims. Her powers were used both for rendering judgment upon criminals as well as easing the pain of the dying. This is one part of the story where HSR shines. There's still some flowery wording here and there, but it focuses on what it needs to focus, and that's Castorice's pain of never being able to hold on to anything without having it be taken away by death. If HSR focused on these moments more than those like Anaxa's verbose discussions with Circes, then the game would have been seen in a much better light than it is now. After Castorice tells us of her past, the search for the demigod of trickery begins. Her name is Cipher, and the gang is supposed to seek her help because apparently she is able to infiltrate Stixia with ease, a feat that would be impossible for anyone else. We even learn that this aid is part of a bet Cipher has with Aglaia. Cipher is introduced to us as a demigod who runs away from her responsibilities. Her prophecy states that she will die if she helps with the Flame Chase journey, but now Aglaia offers her an entire room full of priceless treasures, only to bring Castorice and us to Stixia safely. Cipher comes up with a counter offer, a bet. Problem is, the bet is stupid. Cipher bets that Castorice will give up and refuse to become the Titan of Death. The problem here is that Cipher only stated her losing conditions. Why? When you make a bet, you're in it to win it, and yet she says that if she loses, not only will she escort Castorice, but she'll return all of Aglaia's treasures and give her another room full of treasures to boot. And if she wins, nothing. She never mentions it. You could say that maybe she made the bet to be able to take Aglaia's treasure without having to escort Castorice, but Cipher is a thief and the demigod of trickery. She already knows the location of Aglaia's treasure, so what's stopping her from refusing the deal and coming back to steal everything later? It doesn't make sense. She basically locked herself into a bet where the best case scenario is that she gains nothing, while the worst case scenario is that she loses everything. Not only that, she even says that if she does win the bet, she'll give all of Aglaia's treasures to Cass and the Trailblazer, leaving her with nothing. Oh, and she also admits at the end that she wouldn't have honored the bet anyway. Then what was the point of showing us the bet taking place? And then to top it all off, Cipher eventually agrees. We spent all of this time building up her character to be a greedy thief and not wanting to take part in the Flame Chase journey because of the prophecy. And yet she decides to help Castorice in exchange for 80% of her savings and a bottle of really rare wine. While I understand that the dew of divine blood gifted to us by Aglaia is considered to be the greatest treasure in Amphorius, its value, at least as mentioned by Aglaia, stems from it being the highest form of respect one could show the other. It's just wine made from crops watered with the blood of titans. The drink itself doesn't seem to have any extraordinary properties like granting you the power to see the future, but okay, let's say that she wanted the bottle for collector purposes, right? Why does she have to strike a deal with us? She's already stolen Castorice's gift from us, so what's stopping her from stealing the bottle off of us and piecing out? We already know she's faster than Sonic the Hedgehog, so she could do that at any time and we'd be none the wiser. So, why is she helping? She doesn't have any motivation behind her action and is literally risking her life because helping us means helping the Flame Chase journey, which is tied to her prophecy death. Cipher has no why, and a character without a why is a narrative liability. If we can't believe in their actions, why should we believe in the story at all? I think I get what the writers were going for with Cipher. The trope is classic, the shady thief with a heart of gold who comes through when it counts, and when done right, it can absolutely hit. But with Cipher, it falls flat. There's no setup, no motivation, just an archetype shoved in the story without the soul that makes that kind of character land. Imagine how much stronger this moment would have been if we'd spent time building a connection between Cipher and Castorice. Cipher hints that she cares, not romantically, but like someone looking out for a naive friend that's in way over their head. There's something there, but without setup, it doesn't land when it needs to. Regardless, the deal is made and Cipher uses her speed to instantly bring us to the realm of the dead, Stixia, which brings another inconsistency in the story, and that being Castorice's touch of death. We see Cipher literally picking us up directly to be able to transport us, but she herself mentions that she can't do that with Castorice, otherwise she'd die. So how in the seven hells did she bring Castorice over? Did she tie some rope around her waist and drag her over? Did she pull a Deku or something? Whatever the case may have been, she fulfilled her role. In Stixia, things aren't exactly peaceful. Countless souls have been denied entry and now wander the realm of the dead. Castorice offers solace to many of them. During our travels, we come across Mighty Soul, and that encounter reframes everything we thought we knew about his immortality. It's not that he can't die unless hit in a weak spot, it's that he does die and resurrects himself immediately afterward. See, this is good. This is what strong writing looks like, a clever subversion that recontextualizes an earlier concept. Every time Mighty dies in the living world, he's sent back to the realm of the dead, and he has to claw his way back to life over and over again. Judging by the way he speaks to us, it's a brutal, exhausting process. I joked in one of my previous videos that this guy is Kratos, but honestly, I might have been onto something. Mighty's sheer willpower and refusal to stay dead would impress even the ghost of Sparta himself. Together with Mighty, the gang reaches the highest point in Stixia. It's there they find the spirit of Trian. They have a pretty emotional moment, which is much more believable than the rest of what I've seen so far, but that's because you're just a bystander to a relationship that has already been developed for years before your arrival. It's easy to believe these three have some history and you can relate to their plight. Trian gives Castorice a small drawing showing everyone from the Chrysos heirs. This is her gift to Cass, and with it, Mighty and Trian both bid each other farewell. After which, we're treated to a bit of exposition about Castorice and her sister. So after becoming the new god of death, Policia could not bear the loss of her sister, so at the beginning of the current cycle, she brought Castorice back to life. This consumed Policia and is why the Titan of Death has been so hard to find, because she's already dead. So, to bring back Policia, she will have to use the Philosopher's Stone to reconstruct Policia's body. But before the ritual could begin, Castorice is paid a visit by the spirit of Lady Amunet, her mother. Or well, adoptive mother. It's here that she reveals that the coveted era Chrysia is not the paradise people think it is, as a world without death is a world without meaning. It is thanks to death existing in the world that people have a greater appreciation for all things in life. Without it, era Chrysia was a stagnating bog where all joys lost meaning and the concepts of loving and cherishing did not exist. Knowing this, she grants Amunet peace and begins the ritual that revives a grotesque form of Policia, this time known as Pollux. After defeating the boss, Castorice leaves Pollux for the Netherrealm. Here, in this beautiful field of flowers, Castorice meets with her sister for the first time since her reincarnation. And man, this moment actually hits. They spent the time to set up this moment and the payoff was worth it. It's an emotional moment between two sisters, both having sacrificed everything for the other, but only one of them remembering it. It hurts even more when Castorice calls her sister by her name, prompting Policia to hope just for a little that maybe Castorice remembers her, only for that small hope to be dashed immediately afterwards. It's a good, impactful moment that explores the tragedy of these two twin sisters that have been forced to lay down their lives for one another for a cold, unfeeling prophecy. And, true to the prophecy, Castorice holds Policia one last time before becoming the demigod of death. During this time, Anaxa is at the assembly with the Council of Elders. It's Phinon's turn to speak, and after a passionate speech, he manages to sway the opinions of many, causing the vote to end in a draw, with the tiebreaker to be served by Anaxa himself. Obviously, Anaxa chooses to betray the Council of Elders, surprising absolutely nobody. I will admit, at the very least, he stays true to his motivations, unlike a certain cat-like thief. He also reveals to everyone the cyclical nature of Amphorius and how the demigods of today become the titans of tomorrow, and to prove it, he admits he fused his soul with Kephale. That is heresy in the eyes of the people, which now call for Anaxa's death, and to which Aglaia sentences him to. This is mostly for show, however, as we already know Anaxa has been a dead man walking ever since we've met him. He would have died whether Aglaia sentenced him or not. Going back to the Netherrealm, Castorice awaits. It's our turn to take a look at the beautiful sea of flowers. Our body couldn't handle the strain anymore, and our soul has reached death's doorstep. It is here that Castorice tells us to make our way back to the human world and never look back. For those who don't already know, this is Hoyo's reinterpretation of Orpheus, who was trapped in Tartarus with Eurydice because he looked back before reaching the mortal realm. The problem is, we don't really have anything to look back for, so there's no risk of us failing. Even close to the end, the Trailblazer says that his only reason for looking back is to take in the sights one last time. What kind of contrived reason even is that? But Acheron stops us. We really need a more fleshed out story for Acheron, because I swear to all that is holy, I have no clue why she's even here to begin with. She just pops out of nowhere to warn us to stay on the path. It would have made sense if one of the three paths that are converging around Amphorius was the Nihility, but that's not the case. So why is she here? Now, what I'm going to say next might be biased, as this little walk Hoyoverse gave us, where we see the memories of our companions cheering us on, is almost the same thing as the walk from Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. Spoilers for the game incoming, so if you care about Final Fantasy XIV spoilers, click off right now. HSR's take on the walk is a complete reversal of what Final Fantasy XIV did. In Star Rail, we're walking towards life, as promised by Castorice, and it seems we're spurred on by the companions we've met along the way. An emotional and impactful moment, in theory, but as I was walking on, I realized none of these lines of dialogue had any emotional impact on me. Because outside of the Express crew, we spent very little time with the characters that show up here. So much so that it felt like I barely knew them. Not to mention, they completely skipped the majority of the characters that showed up in Herta Space Station, except Kafka, Belobog, or the Xianzhou Laofu. It all just felt very quick and very small, when it felt like they wanted this moment to be a culmination of our two-year journey. Now take a look at Final Fantasy XIV and their version. Your character fights to prevent the final days, a cataclysmic event that will end existence as we know it across all of reality. In this attempt, the characters that you've journeyed on for 10 real-life years and that you've seen and interacted with in both times of victory and defeat give their life one by one to pave the path forward for you. As the final two companions give their life, you are alone and realize the situation is hopeless, and yet you move forward despite the pain, walking towards the end, spurred on by the words, actions, and experiences of those you have touched and been touched by during your long journey. The lessons you've learned in both victory and defeat, the people that you've helped, the people who have helped you, friends, allies, rivals, enemies, all of them have come to your aid here at the end of all creation. And with each word spoken, I felt their entire weight on my shoulders. You would not have liked being in the same room with me when I went through this. I was a mess. When compared to what was done in 14, I can't help but feel that HSR's walk is hollow, lacking in that emotional punch. But I will admit that maybe this feeling I have is biased, since I've been able to experience something on a much grander and impactful scale. You can't really expect this from a small indie gacha game company that earned $1 billion in under a year. By comparison, FF14 managed to earn that much in about a decade or so, but let's not get into details, shall we? After that, we wake up and we surrender the core flame of death to the big hole in the cosmos, and Castorice's ghost shows up for the trial. My question is, what trial? Castorice already is the demigod of death, so what trial is this and who is the trial for? By that same logic, did Castorice become the demigod of death without a trial? I was under the impression that the completion of the trial was required to be a demigod. So if the trial for the demigod of death was supposed to only start now, then how did Castorice already become the demigod of death? Was it only because Policia already decided to give it to her sister? Is Castorice a Nepo baby? All of these inconsistencies are small, but every single one pulls me out of my immersion, and when they pile up, they poke way too many holes in the rules of the story. Soon after, it's Anaxa's turn, and he kind of forgets his question about where the souls come from, pulls out his core flame, and dies. Okay, so is he dead, or is he like Castorice, meaning he turned into a demigod that can't materialize in the mortal realm? It's not really clear because this is where 3.2 pretty much ends, but if he's actually dead, then how is he going to fulfill his role as a demigod for the Flame Chase journey? I really don't know. Not only that, with his goal fulfilled, you realize he didn't do anything to turn the world upside down as he boasted. I understand that by proving the cyclical nature of Amphorius, he changed the minds of many people in the assembly, but that is so far removed from what he promised us. The Flame Chase journey continues, the Chrysos heirs will still hunt down the Titans for their core flames, it's still the same. In essence, nothing changes. The status quo has been preserved. It leaves me feeling like I've been lied to. If you're going to promise world-shattering revelations, then that means you have to shatter the world. A good idea would have been to have Anaxa reveal something that would call into question the existence of the Flame Chase journey, breaking the belief of every single Chrysos heir, and maybe even casting doubt on the necessity of Era Nova. But again, this is just another missed opportunity among many. So yeah. These are the problems with HSR storytelling right now. It's vague, it's overly wordy, it tries to sound philosophical but ends up offering very little substance. It keeps breaking its own lore rules without explaining why, and it pushes for emotional climaxes without putting in the narrative work to earn them. If HSR wants to hold on to its player base, it needs to restructure its storytelling. First, clarity is king. If the story can be conveyed clearly and cleanly, people will check out. Second, big emotional payoffs only work when you build them up properly. Third, cut down the philosophical fluff and focus on the characters. If players care about them, they'll care about the story. Because the truth is, when a game makes you feel something, it's already won half the battle. Fourth, respect your own lore. If you break the rules, explain why, otherwise it just feels like nothing matters. And fifth, give your world-changing artifacts the narrative weight they deserve. Oh, and here's a sixth one as a bonus. Follow through on your own stakes. When a character like Anaxa declares he will turn the world upside down, that needs to mean something. It's especially disappointing because this is the anniversary patch. This was supposed to be a highlight, a moment that reignites excitement. Instead, the story just feels hollow. But what's done is done. All we can do now is hope that the promises made in the anniversary stream actually come to life. But that's going to be it for me. What do you think of HSR story? Did it fall flat for you, or did it deliver what you were hoping for? Let me know in the comments below. If you're a lore enthusiast and you still love this arc, I want to hear why. Genuinely. Because I think we both want this game's story to succeed. Until next time, have a good one.